Architectural Builder Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
Any insight on how to install one of these?
Where did you buy the material from?
I got it. I live up in Cleveland, Ohio.
Where did you buy the material from?
From a lumber company, but they don't know how to. They don't know how to install it either.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I mean, I look at these instructions. They don't really. They're not specific, and I've got an expensive door, and I don't want to ruin it. Find out I did something wrong.
Yeah. So this is Richard, and we don't provide tech support on stuff bought from other places.
Okay.
So, having said that, I do have a program by which I'm very interested to help you. Would you like to hear about it?
Well, sure.
You leave me a 5-star Google review, then I will handhold all the way through this process.
Okay.
Does that sound like a deal?
Well, yeah, but how do I give you the review? I guess I've never done one of those.
Yeah, you just go on Google and you search our name, and you'll find, you'll find our Google reviews, and you leave me a 5-star review, and that'll be how you pay me for tech support. Okay.
And do I need to do it before you help me, or how does that work?
No, we're gentlemen. You and I are both gentlemen.
Okay.
So,
well, that sounds fair to me.
7811. So, frankly, I get what you're saying, that it's not clear. However, it is clear. So and I say that only because, it's what I know. Now, do you have the installation instructions open in front of you?
I don't have any. None came with the package.
Oh, that's a shame. Are you at a computer?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're going to want to do is, in my website, absupply.net, let me know when you get our site pulled up.
Okay. And that's a picture of you with a bunch of letters?
Yeah, probably somewhere. Yeah, if you're under Contact Us, you would be. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it has up about. Well, it's got the picture of you, about us, or whatever, and then there's some stuff on the left.
Awesome.
Customer service and different things.
Click the logo in the upper left-hand corner and let me know when you're at the home page.
Okay, I think now it's got a bunch of different hardware and things.
Awesome. In that search box, top center, here's what I want you to enter. Enter the @ symbol, which is the symbol above the 2 on the keyboard.
Okay.
Then enter the numbers 7811.
Okay.
Then hit enter and let me know when the next page loads.
Okay, I got that.
Click on the second item, the 7811-600.
Okay.
Now, when you're on that page, scroll down, and on the left-hand side, you'll see template and instructions. So you can click on either one. Just tell me well, first of all, you direct me. What questions do you have? I would take it you've not had the opportunity to review these yet. So I was assuming that you had already seen these and something wasn't, the wires weren't connecting.
Well, I saw a picture, and it said step 1 or whatever, step 2, and it had like little dimensions, but it was kind of, they showed like to me where it says bottom of the door, but it didn't. I just wasn't clear, and if the door wasn't as expensive as it was, I would say, okay, maybe I'm going to try to just use my knowledge of other things, what I might have to do. I guess I'll go back to I think. I think I can understand the top pivot part and get that.
Let's go through it. I mean, you've hired me. Let's go through it. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, so I think I think what I was figuring with the pivot is I might have to mortise that into the door. That thickness of it is, let's say it's, I don't know, 3/16. I could probably just cut that out, chisel it out or whatever, stick that into the door, and then attach the top part to the frame that I'm putting it in, and then it should work. The only thing I'm not sure about is that my door might be smaller than what that would allow with the words for that pin, so I might have to put some kind of a block on the header to allow, that pin to sit into place. But I could probably manage that, I think, as far as, unless you're thinking I'm doing it wrong. But
well,
the box,
why wouldn't you be mortising it to the top of the door and the underside of the header?
Well, I don't know if, I'm not sure if as far as my door goes, I don't know how much space I have there.
Between where? The top of the door and the underside of the header?
Correct.
Well, you need to have an eighth of an inch.
Yeah, it might be more than that. That's the only thing
Has the net door height already been determined? Have you already cut the door?
So, well, the door was purchased. The opening was an existing, it goes into a closet, but there's not any wood framing around it. It's just drywall.
Yeah.
Which is something that I was wondering about as well, is if this would need to be mortised into something, to try to mortise it into drywall. I don't know I probably could do it, but what I'm thinking I would have to do is I'd have to probably get some longer screws than what come with the kit to go into the 2x4 that's up into that drywall. Hopefully that it's going to work. But what I was worried about maybe so much is, like, I could see the distance that pin has to sit in there into both plates, and so if my gap is a little bit more than what that would allow, I would either have to raise the door up off the ground, or lower that pin on the ceiling, which, if I have to put like a little block or something underneath it to attach that into the drywall, I may be able to do that. But I felt either way, whatever I had to do, if I had to raise it up or bring it down, I could probably manage that part of it. And I think I can manage the spring part of it. I just, without knowing for sure, I didn't want to take the chance. But originally when I looked at this thing, what I was thinking when I bought this thing, he said, "Oh, you're just going to have to cut a notch in the door." So my thought was, I'm going to take a 1 inch or 1.5 inch notch and go from the back side of the door, like where the frame is, and go whatever that length is. Let's say it's 6 inches, and I was just going to cut a 1.5 by 6 inch notch in the whole door, and then stick this thing up in there. But as I was looking at it, and I've got these metal plates that kind of hide that spring, if I do that, I don't see how these plates get attached to the door then.
Yeah,
the way it
that's
looks,
a good question.
Because it looks like the back end would just flop around, because I wouldn't have anything to screw into. So then I started thinking, well, maybe what I have to do, I've got an 1 3/4 door. Maybe what I have to do is take the width of this spring mechanism. If it's 1 1/4, let's say, take maybe a 1/4 inch and leave like a 1/4 inch of wood from the door, and then go up into the door on both sides and then through the back. And then, in which case, if I do that, I may need a router or something, which I don't have. But maybe I could use like an oscillating tool or something and try to plunge up into there, and then kind of go through as, get a smaller one that I can kind of cut this through or whatever. I just don't know if I do it that way, maybe I'm not getting it perfectly straight, and then is it going to create a problem when I'm trying to screw this thing in? That was my kind of my concern. And then also with this hinge, it's in the shape of an L, and there's a couple of places where you can put some screws into the door. So I'm guessing that top part of that L, the vertical portion of it, would need to be mortised into the door too. So that was the way I was thinking it needed to be installed, but without 100% confirmation, I didn't want to just go ahead and, start doing this stuff and then find out I screwed up and then I have to replace this door. So
will the people that sold you the door do the prep for the hardware?
No.
Okay. So there's a lot to unpack there. The summary, though, is regarding the bottom of the door, you simply make yours look exactly like that template. You get your mechanics combination square and a pencil, and you draw that out on the door. Copy all the dimensions. Let's go back though. What is your finished opening height?
That's a good question because I'm not. I actually came home to my office to get this stuff online because when I talked to the Bommer people, they said that you had some video, so I went home to watch this stuff. But let's just say it's 81. It might be 81 and a half, maybe.
Okay. What's the net door height?
It might be 80. It could be 80 and a half inches. So I might have an inch.
Yeah, that's too much. You're going to want to pad. Well, what you could do is just you could buy the Bommer 7805 jam bracket, and that'll probably pick you up 3/16, 312. Okay. That's 3/4. You'd be close. You're going to want to lift that because the template is clear. You need 9/16 at the bottom, and you need an 1/8 inch at the top. So that's 11/16. So finished opening height minus 11/16 is your net door height. And if you don't have that, then you've got to find it somewhere. And it would be just really building the hardware up off the floor, which is not ideal. But you can't have a 1/4 inch or 5/16 gap up at the top. That's just not going to work. And plus, that drywall problem it's a showstopper. I've got over the decades, I've had contractors look at me like I'm extremely confused as to why that won't work. Well, install a piece of hardware to drywall, and you'll see why it doesn't work. Even with longer screws, the drywall is going to eat away, and the vertical axis of pivoting must stay true, plumb, level, and square at all times, or your door is going to hit the jamb. So you got to build it up, and if it was me, I would be cutting that drywall out, and I would be getting myself a solid piece of lumber, and I would be taping over that and painting it. Or I would be looking at a different top pivot that would be, frankly, as much as the hardware itself, something that's thicker. But that's a problem that you'll have to solve. Maybe what you could do is get a piece of 1x material and have it planed down and cap the underside of the header. That might solve both problems, but you'll have to tape that and make it disappear. So there's no way around addressing that head on. And then the summary is once you have the opening, ready to receive hardware, and you've got the net door height problem tackled. It's the first time I did this when I was in my early 20s. It was literally with a pencil, trace out what you've got to cut. And yes, I used a router, and a router is literally your best friend. And honestly, it would be worth buying or renting a router to do this, buying the bit and renting the router, because the result will be so nice when you're done.
Right.
And you just make the bottom of the door look like that. In terms of the top, that's a 5/8 radius. That's a Forstner bit as far as I'm concerned. You get a Forstner bit that's 5/8 radius, 1.25 diameter. Zip, zip, zip 3 times, and you're good. It's a really nice, clean prep. You can hog that out at the top. No one will ever see it, really. But in the header, you'll see it when you look. Now, the real fun stuff is what are you going to do in terms of how they want you to treat the style. So the same question about finished opening height applies to finished opening width. You can see that the template calls out for 1.5 radius styles. And if you are not going to radius the door styles, well, then you've got to do something. Because so they're telling you that, on the template, it shows a 1/4 inch gap. You can leave them square edge. I've put this into AutoCAD many times. You won't have to radius those edges. You can leave them square and it'll still work perfectly with a 1/4 inch gap. But gosh, if you radiused them, then you could really take it down tight to like 1/8 of an inch. But now you're buying a really expensive router bit because that's a big radius.
Mm-hmm.
You could also get away with a 3/4 inch radius, but what you really want to do is have it tossed into AutoCAD so that you can know exactly what your dimensions are. But if you did square, I can tell you from experience, if you did square edges and 1/4 inch gap on both of the vertical sides, you'll have no problem with clearance.
Okay. But that might change, like for the directions, they're showing it as an 1/8 inch gap and on the back end, or the I guess you'd say like the hinge side.
Yeah, you're going to want to make it 1/4 inch on both sides for two reasons. That'll give you enough breathing room, first of all. But second, when you look at the opening in elevation, it'll appear to be even. And if you're going to do that, then you might be tempted to do the same at the header, but you really need the projection of the pin from the header going into the top of the door. Otherwise, you're compromising the hardware's ability to keep the door in the opening, because what it's going to want to do is fall out.
Right. Yeah, that was what I was thinking initially when I looked at it. That it's got to be pretty tight. And then, when I initially started talking with you, I was thinking that it had to be routed into both top and bottom. And I don't know, I wasn't sure if I'm going to router it into the drywall, if that's even going to work.
Yeah. You could surface mount it. You're just going to be left with a heavier gap than what someone like me would like to see. Having said that, the only people that are going to know there's a 1/4 inch gap up there are me, you, and the guy upstairs. No one's going to notice it.
Well, so if I were to put like a piece of metal, let's say let's say I've got a 1/4 inch piece of metal that that was 2 inches wide by 4 inches, and then I drilled a hole through that, and that for where my screws have to go, and then screwed that through. That would maybe give it a little bit more, I guess. It wouldn't be directly on the drywall, even though technically it is, but maybe any of that force would be kind of taken up by the metal, as opposed to the plate or whatever just getting touched to the drywall.
Yeah, if you had a piece of 1/8 inch steel up there that you painted to kind of look, I would think that you drilled and countersunk 6 screws and run it into the studs, into the header. I would really think you'd be in good shape. I don't think it would move. I mean, your door isn't more than 90 pounds based on the hardware selection, so I would think you'd be okay. But at the end of the day, it's all about that opening was not built to take this hardware to begin with, so you're putting a round peg in a square hole.
Right. Yeah, that's, just what I get. It was originally she wanted to have a barn door, and then she changed her mind. And then somewhere along the way, I opened my mouth and said, well, what if we just do something like this? And I just thought maybe that might be a good idea, but I never had put one in, and I didn't think, I was just thinking it's a pin in the floor and a pin in the ceiling, and then I figure out how to get that thing in there, and it would be fine. But when I ordered this thing from where I ordered it from, this is what came in, and I was like, I don't even know if she's even going to like this, because it looks kind of bulky, and she's trying to be, everything in her bathroom is streamlined. That's why she didn't want any trim around the door opening. That's why it's a drywalled opening. All the cabinets have square faces. No, everything is square, and it looks like a modern European looking bathroom. So this has been, I bought this hardware probably a year ago, and I'm still not done with this door because it took her this long to even decide that this is exactly the way that she wants to go. So I told her I could come today and do it, and I went there, and it's been so long, I went to go see about how to put it in, and I see there's no instructions, and I'm like, oh, great. Now I don't even know what to do. So
now you touched on something else about cutting the bottom of the door and how to attach the plates. The nasty secret is only 2 of the 4 screw holes are going to bite. And when you ask the manufacturer why they do that, they say that's how we do it. So you're going to literally have 2 screws that there's nothing you can do with. And I've told people it's a bad design, and the reason they designed it that way is so that the plates are not handed. Otherwise, you'd have lefts and rights on the plates. So what I've told people to do is cut the head of the screws off, get a little bit of super glue, and glue them in so it looks nice. But only 2 screws are going to hold those plates. Now, in your situation, you might be able to make yourself a couple of pieces of 1/4-inch thick wood that's painted to match, and then brad nailed on, finished, stained to match, whatever it is, just to give it a more, not only inconspicuous look, if that's, so you might want to try to be creative about how to hide that hardware as well. But only 2 screws is all you'll get.
Well, so I'm trying to remember now. It's like on the picture, I'm looking at this thing, I clicked on the instructions. I think that was when you were telling me about like how it explains, maybe this one, I haven't looked at it yet quite 100%, but when you were explaining that it needs to be like 11/16 difference between the opening and the door, I'm looking at this plate and it looks like it has 4 screws that it's attaching to. When you're referring to those 4 screws, the ones on the, I guess, let's say that were the hinge, like the jam side of the door, the 2 screws that are holding that plate on are the 2 to the right going towards the center of the door?
No, you're going to get the top 2. You won't get the bottom 2.
Oh.
No. You're going to get, you should be able to get 3 of them, looking at the dimensions. 5/16, 9/16. You should be able to get the top 2 and the one towards the center of the door. You should be able to get that bottom one as well. But the one in the pivot style corner, you're not going to get that one.
Okay. See, what I think I remember when I was looking at that plate, I have 2 holes towards the center of the door, and then there's like a little flange that kind of like a 90-degree return on that plate that goes to the back side of that door that would be screwed in. And then that's why I was concerned at how do I screw those, because I would never.
Okay. So you don't have a 7811, you have a 7812, and that angle plate you just referred to is the jam bracket. That's the 7805. So what happens is you mount the horizontal spring pivot assembly with 4 machine screws that are round head and very short. You screw that to that plate, and then you end up screwing the jam, that plate to the jam. You would do that in reverse, actually. You should be able to do it. I'd have to look at the 7805. Yeah, so you attach that bracket to the hardware, and then all of that gets slid in and attached to the jam, to the case opening frame.
Okay.
In terms of the prep at the bottom of the door, all I can say is, one way or another, make your door look like that piece of paper. I'm not saying use a handsaw or a hammer and chisel or a circular saw, but come hell or high water, you got to put that notch down there. It's a notch. It's not. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's a notch into the door. It's not a notch out of the door. I don't know if I'm making sense with that, but my initial thought for a notch was, if I have to go up 1.5 inches into the door, I go up 1.5 inches, and then I carry that whole thing out on each outside edge all the way across.
Yeah.
Is that's what I'm doing, or am I trying to notch?
No, you're not mortising. You're notching. You're removing all of the wood on your 1 3/8, 1 3/4 thick door. It's all gone.
So it's basically just an L, and so
it's an L with a couple of ears is how I like to say it.
So when you say
you're
ears,
right. No, forgive me. It's an L. It's an L with a little ear, a tab down at the bottom. Yeah, see, that's where I guess I'm kind of confused. I guess because this is how I got into this whole thing with
with trying to figure out how this plate is going to attach, because I could see it could, if I do that, I can see it being attached to, well, I guess I could see that. I see that now as we've talked. I could see 3 screws. If that plate is wide enough to cover that whole bracket, if let's say that plate is 2 inches and I'm cutting 1.5 inches out, that would give me a 1/2 inch of space for me to be able to screw that left screw into something. So okay, I think I got that part. So that if that's the way it's going to be, then I think I could manage that. Then I just have to deal with the pin at the top and figure out what I'm doing with that.
Yeah, give yourself something solid to attach to, so that thing in 10 years hasn't started to creep out of the opening to where it's now hitting, and this lady who spent good money can't find you, that kind of business. Make it rock solid, and I think you're in. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, I mean, there was a time I never did this, and I had the same questions you had, but I'm saying jump in, the water's fine. Just make your door look like that piece of paper. Notch it just like it says on there. Trace it out and make it disappear.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this, the stuff that I have. It's an instruction PDF 7811 to 7821. And it says step 1 through step 6.
Right.
And where I see, I guess we get to step 3, which is, I think, that's the part that's dealing with the bottom.
Yeah, that's right.
So it says 3 5/16. And then there's, I guess it's like 5/16. I'm guessing that they want me to mortise that, that top or the vertical part of that hinge up into the door, 5/16 of an inch. But I'm cutting a notch that looks like it's about 1 7/16 out of it.
That's exactly correct.
By 8 3/8.
Yeah, well, 8 3/8 plus 5/16 from the edge of the door all the way over.
Yes.
It'll be 6, 5, 16, 6. It'd be 8 11/16.
Okay. All right. And then the only thing that would screw me up would be if I don't get this perfectly square.
You mean the notch?
Yeah. Like if I were to.
Yeah. You've got a little bit of cheat that you've got, but at the end of the day, the prep needs to be really within a very reasonable tolerance of what they've drawn here, because those plates are only so big.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could take a circular saw and cut it up. I mean, I guess I could do that with pretty.
You could. It'll do some of the heavy work for you, but at a certain point, you're going to end up doing this with maybe finishing it with a jigsaw, maybe finishing it with a hammer and chisel. Circular saws they're only going to get you so far.
Right.
But like I said, it'll do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But so will a jigsaw. Yeah.
Okay. I think I can. I think I've got what I. After talking with you, I think I've got what I have to do. Now I just got to find out if this door is going to fit in the opening and what I have to do with that. So there might be some other stuff I need to do with that, so I can kind of address that and then let her know, because as particular as she is, I don't want to just assume she's going to be okay with something. So I'm gonna find out what I have, and go back there and see. I'm going to make a plan, and then we'll see what I can do, and hopefully I can get it to work. And if not, then I'm going to have to try something, plan B.
Well, if the client wants it to be self-closing, self-centering, there's other options, but they only get more complicated than this. Well, They get more elegant, for sure, but they get far more complicated. The other option is those real heavy-duty double-acting spring hinges that you see on cafe or saloon doors or in restaurants. Those are super loud. The client's going to have a panic attack when they hear these clunking giant hinges. And then I suggest that you find some pictures of these things installed online and say, this is what it's going to look like. Are you in? Because once you've cut your, what was this door? $1,000, $500, $10,000?
Yeah. Well, it was probably about $500, and then I had to stain it. So probably all in all with everything, it was probably, I don't know, $800-900 with everything.
You're darn right. Yeah, you got a real expensive investment there. So, you know, this hardware's going to be great. It's going to last decades. And after you do the first one, you'll be an expert.
Yeah.
You will.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be so good, and I was never bring it up as an option again.
Well, yeah, or you're just going to say, boy, I lost money the first time. Now I know how to price it.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I can if that's what it happens, that's what happens. It's not the end of the world for me. I just, at the end of the day, I just want to make sure it works the way it's supposed to, and she's happy. And then I can, because otherwise it's, those headaches are worse.
They are. So, yeah, you don't get paid, and then you got a problem. So, So my name is Richard. I want you to call me back at any time. If you are standing there with your circular saw in hand and you want to just get another set of eyes on it, just call me. Okay.
So going back to this review for you, I'm on the initial part where it says architectural builders apply, and then it says write a review.
That's all you do.
Since I've never done this before, I just click on that and it'll give me the thing. Okay.
Yeah, I spoke to Rich. He helped me out. 2 high fives. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, I'll write something for you. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate your help. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.